But I'm Mike Wilbon. It's International Choreographers Day, Tony. You have a favorite piece of choreography?
Tony Kornheiser, do I? Hit it, boys. Penguin dance.
Oh, goodness.
Now to the right. Now back to the middle. Now slow it down. Now speed it up. Yeah, the penguin dance. It's the best.
Haven't we been years without two things I could go years without? Uranus jokes and the penguin dance. Hadn't we successfully removed ourselves from those two?
That's exactly why you're not producing this show.
Yeah.
Because people love these things. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Cavs beat the Thunder, NFL teams reach out to Bill Belichick, and Booger McFarland joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with tonight's resumption of the college football playoffs after what feels like a long delay. Penn State will play Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl in Miami. Penn State got there by beating SMU and then Boise State. Notre Dame got there by beating Indiana and then Georgia. The Irish are a slight 2-point favorite. Wilbon, which of these teams do you trust more tonight?
Notre Dame, and I don't know why. It's been a long time for both of them. So let me just admit, Notre Dame, Penn State, this is where I live. I mean, growing up watching Notre Dame and hating them pretty much every week, just because my brother Don loved them, I was required to hate them. And then Penn State, first as an independent, and you and I, back in the Joe Paterno days, had to make our share of treks to Nittany Land, and we covered games, and these are two teams that were so important to college football in the 60s and 70s and certainly the 80s. And I'm really intrigued by it, Tony, although you know there's a 17-13 game waiting to break out of this. Because these teams, they play that. They have running backs that will dominate defenses, special teams, and the approach of their coaches. But I think that Penn State has been so bad, like 1-something against top 5 teams. I trust Notre Dame more, although I can't sit here and say I think that Notre Dame is some lock to just beat the daylights out of Penn State. I don't see a beatdown coming.
Yeah, we are sort of aligned on this. I think in the regular season, Penn State had a significantly harder schedule. They had to play Oregon. They had to play Ohio State. Notre Dame didn't have to play any teams remotely as good as that, but Penn State lost those games. So if you ask me, do I trust Penn State? My answer is no. To get the correct number, James Franklin at Penn State is 1-13 against teams in the top 5. And Notre Dame right now is ranked 3rd. Penn State has lost its last 10 games in a row as an underdog, and they are a 2-point underdog, so there is a pattern there. But when I look at the body of work of Notre Dame, I am somewhat skeptical. The Northern Illinois thing is an absolutely terrible loss. Some of the teams that they played that were ranked, like Army and Navy, really cannot compete on an elite D1 level. Yeah. And Notre Dame does not pass the ball. They don't gain any yards when they pass the ball.
He's going to have to throw it tonight.
Yeah, now, their win against Georgia was really impressive because they didn't let Georgia get anything. But Georgia, as we know, Mike, was playing with a second-string quarterback. Yeah. So it complicates things. If you put me to the wall, I will pick Notre Dame, and I'll tell you that I think 10 days off for Penn State, maybe a few days off too many. Yeah. And I don't think they've beaten teams of the quality of Georgia. But I agree with you that we're looking at an under. We're not looking at a high-scoring game, I wouldn't think.
17-13. A lot of the nation will be bored. That will remind me of the college football I grew up on. So I'm all in. I'm all in for that matchup and whatever happens. We got more intrigue involving, wait for it, Bill Belichick, God help me. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network reports that multiple NFL teams have reached out to the new North Carolina head coach, including the Raiders via their new minority owner, Tom Brady. The Raiders today fired GM Tom Telesco, by the way. Belichick agreed to coach the Tar Heels just a month ago, and Mike Lombardi, the new Tar Heel football GM, told Pat McAfee that Belichick is completely committed to UNC. Tone, is a return to the NFL something Belichick should seriously consider now?
No, I don't think so. This story feels like you're closing the barn door after the horse got out. It feels sort of panicky. Are you telling me that Tom Brady didn't reach out to Belichick before this? Why? Because he lost his phone number so he could call Robert Kraft and get the phone number back? And if you want to say to me, no, what happened was nobody knew that Las Vegas was going to fire Antonio Pierce.
Oh,
okay.
we knew.
But if Belichick's name was out there, you had to call him. You had to say, are you available? Are you interested? And certainly, Mike, a month ago when he started playing footsie with North Carolina, if his name was on your board, you would have called him then.
Okay, here's the deal. And this is what happens now in just the endless cycle of reports and more reports and refuting and podcasts. And Bill Belichick isn't leaving North Carolina. And to entertain anything else, to me, seems to be stupid. He's not. People call people. I've said this to you for the last 2 days. Executives and coaches and assistant coaches, it is just calling. It's so incestuous, any sports industry. They're calling each other all the time. Tom Brady's not calling Belichick to come and coach the Raiders. If he called him, and I can see him calling him, he's calling him to say, hey, we're thinking about bringing Gerard Mayo in to be a defensive coordinator. What do you think? Or we got this guy we're thinking about bringing in special teams who worked for us for 2 years. What do you think? Calls can be anything. Tom Brady, he and Belichick can barely speak to each other when they parted. He's not calling him to coach or run the Raiders. Stop the stupidity, look, people.
Belichick, if he wants to go back and coach the Raiders, that's fine. He's going to coach a terrible team where the best quarterback on the team is a minority owner, not an actual player.
Yes.
He is going to play for a principal owner who seems totally flighty at this point, and his reputation will be destroyed. He will be called a liar.
Yes.
And
he's not.
No. And by the way, if he does it, North Carolina can go get another guy with a ring if they want. They can get Pete Carroll. All right, let's revisit last night's Oklahoma City-Cleveland game. Close game all the way. There were 30 lead changes. Cleveland ultimately won by 7, 129 to 122, but it was essentially a one-basket game. You got your money's worth on this one. Wilbon, what did you learn from this game?
Tony, I don't know that learn is the word. There were some things reinforced. And it's about how good these teams are, how talented they are. There's no more big three. Forget that model, right? You draft, you develop. And so you get a guy like Jalen Williams who has 25-9. People have no idea who Jalen Williams is yet. Isaiah Hartenstein, who the Knicks had to let go. 18-11-8. A guy named Kason Wallace, who nobody knows. Fewer people know him than Jalen Williams at this point. 15 points on 6 of 8 shooting. Wiggins, 5 of 7. People don't even know Oklahoma City. Depth, talent, development, great coaching, and yet they lost the game. They shot 53.3% in to Cleveland, narrowly in Cleveland, because you got guys like Ty Jerome and Max Strus who are playing well. Mobley and Allen go for 46 and 21 on 17 for 24 shooting. Cleveland, talented, deep, well coached. These are the models of the teams that they're like Boston. That you don't know them as well as you knew the Celtics, because the Celtics had a run-up of about 6 or 7 years. But these teams confirm what we thought. To me.
Yeah. So I watched most of this game. I did. I have no complaints about this game. A couple of things surprised me. One was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander took a lot more shots than I thought he was going to take. It looked like he was auditioning for an MVP showcase. He took 27 shots. The next most shots on his team on Oklahoma City was 17. The most shots on Cleveland was 16. But he was out there in his own zone, and by the way, was 1 for 6 from 3. So did not look all that good. The other thing that surprised me was Cleveland got 129. Oklahoma City came in here as the top-rated defensive team in the entire NBA. They usually give up around 103. And they gave up baskets close to the rim. You mentioned the two big men on Cleveland, right? Allen and give me the other guy, Mobley.
Allen and Mobley. 17 for 24.
46 points, 21 rebounds, and 17 of 24, and only 3 three-point attempts. So they were right by the rim. So if you ask me what I learned, I would learn that Oklahoma City has vulnerability right there. Now, maybe when Holmgren gets back, maybe they don't have that vulnerability.
Until Holmgren comes back.
I understand. But that's one of the things that I learned there. The other thing I learned is that Cleveland is 32-4. Now, people are saying they got the second easiest schedule in the league. maybe, but they have torn through it because 32-4 is a
They're on
real
Warriors
number.
and Bulls pace right now. That's a pace.
Yeah.
That's a pace.
Yeah. So, all right, let's take a break. Coming up, we will ask Booger McFarland how he's seeing both college semifinal games.
We'll also ask him which road team he likes in the AFC wildcard games. Tony, let me say this about SGA. He's often bashful. They want him to shoot more. He did last night, but he's
27.
The guy's averaging
a lot of
30
shots.
plus. He's
Okay. And he got his points.
Wasn't his best
but
game.
27 shots
Wasn't his
stands
best
out.
game.
Let's get back into football with our great friend ESPN, NFL, and college football analyst, Booger McFarland. Booger, we will start with the college game, and we will start with tonight's game. Penn State, Notre Dame. What do you see as the key to that game?
You know, Tony, on the surface, it seems rather obvious. You talk about Penn State that's got two good running backs in Allen and Singleton. Notre Dame's got two good running backs in Love and Price. But I think those two things are going to cancel each other out. I think the key to the game is which quarterback can make the most explosive plays. You look at Penn State, Drew Aller. He's got a do-it-all tight end in Tyler Warren, who's probably going to be the first tight end pick in the National Football League draft. Can he get some explosive plays to the tight end down the field? Because at wideout, I think they're a little bit limited. Or on the other side, can Riley Leonard, the transfer quarterback, came over from Duke to Notre Dame, can he be explosive and make some of those 20 to 30-yard plays down the field? I think both teams will run the football. These backfields are so good. But this game comes down to the quarterback. Drew Aller, Riley Leonard, who's going to make those explosive plays in the passing game?
All right, then we'll test you on the other game tomorrow night, Booger. Ohio State and Texas. And Ohio State, of course, looked like a juggernaut again, though albeit against what I think was a rusty Oregon team. But to whom are you giving the edge with Texas and Ohio State?
You know, Mike, I'm going to take you back to my hometown of Winsboro, Louisiana. And my old football coach said, son, it's a poor dog that won't fight in his own backyard. This game is in Texas.
Yep.
Okay, Texas is an underdog. All week long, everybody has told the Longhorns, hey, this team is so good, you guys can't beat them. Look at Jeremiah Smith. He's the best player in America. And I honestly think that Steve Sarkisian is going to have the Longhorns coming out, and they are going to be furious. They're going to be upset. They're going to play at a fever pitch. And, oh, by the way, they are just talented enough to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I know Ohio State is playing at a high level the last 2 weeks. But let's not forget, we saw Ohio State go up and down throughout the regular season. I think this is going to be the biggest upset so far. I think the Longhorns knock off the Buckeyes, and people are going to say it's an upset. But let me tell you right here, this team is as talented as the Buckeyes, and Steve Sarkisian is one of the better coaches in the country.
It's a perfect appetizer to have those two games before we get to the weekend NFL games, as you know, Booger. So let's move to the NFL. Of the three NFC games, and of course there are Packers at Eagles, Commanders at Tampa, and Vikes at Rams, though I can't see that game being played actually in L.A. The Rams will still be the home team. Who do you like in those NFC games?
It's got to be the Packers at Eagles. That game intrigues me so much. You're talking about the youngest football team in the league in the Green Bay Packers, a team that is super talented, and I get it. They're do-it-all wide out Christian Watson. He's out with the ACL, but they're loaded at the wide receiver position. Now, it's all going to depend on Jordan Love. He hit the funny bone. By all accounts, he's going to be fine. He's going to start. He'll be okay. The Philadelphia Eagles, when you look at Jalen Hurts, he's coming off concussion. Is he going to be ready to play? We know he's practicing, but is he going to be able to be at peak level, not having played in a couple weeks? I think the Eagles could be rusty. And on top of that, here's the key to it also, Mike. Remember, the Packers did this last year. They went on the road, went into Dallas, and beat the Cowboys. They didn't just beat the Cowboys.
Beat them down.
They beat the hell out of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So here is a Green Bay Packer team that is young. They're super talented. They're hungry. They understand how talented they are. And I think they are just young and ornery enough to go into Philadelphia and deal with everything that the Philadelphia Eagles bring and get an upset.
All right, so that's two upsets you picked. You picked Texas with an upset. You picked the Packers with an upset.
those.
We'll get you out of here with a chance to pick another upset. Let's go to the AFC wildcard games. And of the road teams involved, what do we have? The Chargers, the Steelers, and the Broncos. who do you think has the best chance of pulling an upset?
Yeah, I think this is relatively easy. I think when you look at Jim Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers going on the road to take on the Houston Texans, let's be honest with you. The Houston Texans won that division almost by default. They haven't been the same team since early in the season. C.J. Stroud is not playing at a high level, at least not the level that he played at last year. The defense is really good for the Texans, but their offensive line is not very good. So when we talk about upset, I really don't think it's an upset. I think the Chargers are the better team. I just love how physical that Jim Harbaugh is. Remember what he said when he first took the job, guys? He said, my job is to take something off the quarterback, take pressure off him. He's done that. They run the football, they're physical, and now in the playoffs, when you need Superman to put the cape on, I think Justin Herbert will do that. I think this team is really good. This is the worst Charger team that he'll have because I think now that he knows what he needs, next year they'll go get it. I think the Chargers go on the road, they run the football, they're physical, and Jim Harbaugh pulls off the quote-unquote upset at Houston.
Yeah, you're killing Wilbon when you say this because Wilbon just wanted Harbaugh at the Bears. You're killing him by saying how good Harbaugh is. Thank you, Booger.
Love him.
Thank you, Booger.
Booger, thanks, man.
Anytime, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Falcons discuss their plans for Kirk Cousins. What are their plans?
Well, they just
They're not
signed
going to
his
play him
guy
anymore.
Pay him. That's what the plan is. Villanova pulls off a big win over UConn, Tone. Those take us back to some Big East days right there. Huh?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The Harbaugh. Happy time, people. Happy 60th birthday, Muggsy Bogues. For those who don't remember the name, Bogues played 14 years in the NBA for the Washington Bullets, Charlotte Hornets, Warriors, and Raptors. That's not memorable except for the fact that Bogues was 5'3" for all of those years and weighed 136 pounds. Bogues averaged 7.7 points and 7.6 assists. Twice he averaged more than 10 assists. 3 times he averaged more than 10 points. Nobody ever said Muggsy Bogues did not belong in the league. One of my highlights at the Washington Post was covering the 1987 draft when the Bullets drafted Bogues in the first round to team him up with 7'7" Manute Bol. And I asked in print, are we building a basketball team or a circus act here?
Man, pound for pound, Muggsy's right up there. I can't believe you didn't mention the photo you had in your office at the Post
with Magic.
For 100 years
with Magic.
Of Muggsy trying to guard Magic Johnson in the post. 5'3" to 6'9". How about that? Great photo.
It's an unbelievable shot, and it's to scale. It's real. Happy anniversary, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. On this day 53 years ago, the future Lakers star led Milwaukee to a 120-104 win over visiting Los Angeles, ending the longest winning streak in North American pro sports history at 33 games. Kareem outdueled Wilt Chamberlain. Kareem had 39 points and 20 rebounds.
Wow.
Wilt had 15 and 12.
Wow.
The Lakers would go on to win the NBA title that season. The season before, Kareem and Oscar Robertson won it for the Bucks. After 6 seasons in Milwaukee, Kareem would be traded to Los Angeles, where he had played college ball at UCLA. In those 6 Milwaukee years, Kareem won 3 MVPs and a championship. In LA, Kareem would win 3 more MVPs and 5 more titles.
That 33-game winning streak isn't celebrated nearly enough. First of all, it happened without the Lakers' co-best player, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor. Baylor tore up his knee at a time when you tore up your knee, that's it. And you know what happened? Jerry West got in his car and he drove to Elgin's house and literally went upstairs and begged him. He said, listen, the Celtics aren't it anymore. We're going to win. The Lakers are finally going to win. And he thought he had Elgin convinced, and he couldn't convince him. And Tony, you know, because you lived it, how it was bittersweet that the Lakers did that, but they did it without Elgin, who was just the nicest man and the greatest player. An incredible story.
Yeah. Happy trails to last night's game for UConn. The 9th-ranked Huskies fell to Villanova by 2 in a rare meeting at Finneran Pavilion on Nova's campus. The two teams usually play at Wells Fargo Arena. UConn's Alex Caravan had a chance to tie the game and put the Huskies ahead from the line with 3.1 seconds remaining. But the 81% free throw shooter missed them both. It's a huge win for Villanova, and especially head coach Kyle Neptune, who has missed the tournament in his first 2 seasons since taking over for Jay Wright. After starting this season 2-3, the Wildcats are now 11-5, including 4-1 in the Big East.
If you like UConn Villanova last night, how about UConn at Georgetown Saturday afternoon? I mean, we're having, relive the Big East time for a couple of people who saw a lot of Big East games. I may have to wander into that one, Tone. UConn at Georgetown. Hoyer's good again.
Georgetown's good this year. You can use Kelleher's seats. Let's go to the big finish. The NFL could move Monday's Vikings-Ram game to Arizona due to the wildfires in L.A. Your thoughts?
Move it now. It's unseemly. You're not going to have this game in L.A., nor should it have any chance taking place there. Move it to Phoenix. Move it to Glendale. Falcons GM Terry Fontenot says he's very confident moving ahead with Kirk Cousins as the backup to Michael Penix. You buying that?
No, not at all. You try to trade him, and when nobody will trade for that contract, you simply release him. Can't do it to Penix. Georgia quarterback Carson Beck has entered the transfer portal. I thought he was going to the NFL. Is that a good decision?
Yeah, I think this is a good decision. Coming off the surgery he just had, his elbow, whatever. Miami apparently is a destination that's out there. Tomorrow's Golf League, TGL, its debut averaged nearly 1 million viewers, double the PGA Tour's final round broadcast of the Century Sunday. One-time deal or more than that, Tone?
I think people will come back. It was interesting. I think in the winter they'll come back. Last one, Chris Middleton now coming off the bench for the Bucks. Is that a smart move?
Yeah, Tony, I think it is. You got to preserve him. They have to have Middleton to make a real run, and you don't want him out there. He can't be injured and not available. Middleton's too important.
Preserve him? Like put him in formaldehyde?
Yeah.
Preserve him? We're out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the podcast on the Apple Podcast. College Game Day.